Warning, this video contains spoilers for Hazbin Hotel Season 1. If you have not seen Hazbin Hotel and wish to remain unspoiled, I'd recommend skipping this video for now. You can always come back to it when you are ready, I promise. Hazbin Hotel is a fantastic series that upends the conventional thinking of what a princess animated musical show could be. Sure, the newly released first season of Vivian Vizipop Madrano's Amazon Prime series features the expected genre trappings on paper, by which I mean in how its lead character Charlie is a Disney princess-esque character who is an absolute and wholesome bleeding heart, expresses herself through the medium of song, as one is wont to do, and is altruistic and acts in a way that would lead to a better life for her citizens, which, you know, is all very much in style with lead protagonists in Disney princess animated musicals marketed to children. Because those costumes and dolls ain't gonna sell themselves, god damn it. But with Hazbin Hotel, there is a clear difference. Unlike other Disney-style princesses, Charlie is the daughter of Lucifer, meaning that the denizens of hell are her citizenry, and thus, as a result, Hazbin Hotel is clearly a show made with adults in mind. While sure, it has bright and colorful animation, catchy songs, and very emotive main characters, because look at this sick I want to adopt him. Hazbin Hotel is without a doubt a show meant for older audiences. For one thing, the comedy is very raunchy and filled with many expletives. I mean, to be clear, Hazbin Hotel is really f***ing funny, but not the type of age-appropriate funny meant for all audiences. I mean, for f***'s sake, this series is really horny and makes a ridiculous amount of sex jokes, because even in hell, sex really sells. But more importantly, Hazbin Hotel is adult due to its deep themes. See, behind the veneer of colorful animation, sing-along worthy songs, a penchant for blood and gore, and its impressive comedic chops, Hazbin Hotel is emotionally very mature. Yes, really, the show with a ridiculous amount of sex jokes about various orifices being violated has something to say. And Hazbin Hotel's message, its overall thesis statement, is that everyone has the ability to strive to be a better person, live a morally altruistic life, and be redeemed for past sins, as well as the fact that we shouldn't judge people too harshly for their real or perceived past sins, especially as those said faulty folks try to improve as people. After all, Charlie's mission statement behind the Hazbin Hotel itself is to essentially be a rehabilitation center that helps sinners confront their demons, both figuratively and sometimes literally, in order to live a better life and potentially become good and then be allowed to enter heaven. Meaning that Charlie's mission in Hazbin Hotel as a show revolves around seeing the good in people, even people who have sinned, because after all, many characters in the show have lived hard lives and have experienced various hardships that have affected them. And Charlie, and by extension Hazbin Hotel as a show, says that we should have compassion for those that are struggling, that we shouldn't judge people just because of their sins, and that everyone deserves a chance to redeem themselves and show that they are capable of living virtuously, which is overall a very heartwarming message that shouldn't be controversial. While sure, some controversy is expected due to how this show is a take on Christianity, meaning that some anger is expected, but rather there shouldn't be a moral outrage type of controversy that taps into the language that would befit a moral panic. There should be no anger whatsoever regarding what this show is thematically about, even though yes, it features an alternative portrayal of hell from what is normally shown, because to be clear, in most portrayals, hell is a place of fire, pain, monsters, and lacking in Chicago-style hot dogs. True nightmare shit. Whereas in Hazbin Hotel, its fire and pain is colorful, wholesome, and features a version of Satan who is an adorable doof with an odd neurodivergent fascination for deadly rubber ducks, which I can relate. What a king. But even with that aside, Hazbin Hotel undeniably features a strong message about empathy and caring for others who have been hurt, abused, and or experienced trauma, even if they're morally flawed. It wants us to show love for those who are hurting, and that's a very strong narrative and thematic point. Hell, it's something that ironically embodies Christian values. I mean, come on, Charlie opts to show love towards those who have sinned, even those who have personally wronged her. Something that is very Christ-like in my humble opinion. Meaning that given that Hazbin Hotel is marketed towards adults and features great themes about compassion and empathy towards those who are different and have experienced a lot of bullshit, there honestly shouldn't be an issue surrounding this series. There should only be minimal controversy because, it's covering religion. The show just deserves to be evaluated for the wholesome themes that it stands for. Now let's discuss why Hazbin Hotel does have a controversy, and an immensely dumb one at that. See, there has been a backlash to Hazbin Hotel, mostly from religious conservatives. The usual suspects. Ever since the first trailer for Hazbin Hotel released, many religious and conservative outlets and organizations have vented their frustrations with the series, even going so far as to bring back the satanic panic, which, yay. A critique from outlets and organizations like the Washington Times, Bleeding Fool, Catholic Review, and 1 Million Moms. Which, quick aside, in regards to 1 Million Moms, judging from social media accounts, there are far fewer than 1 million moms who follow and support 1 Million Moms. Sure, 100,000 followers on Facebook alone is nothing to scoff at, but that sure as shit ain't a million. It's far short. The amount of moms advertised is just deceptive. But anyway, the point. Many of these outlets and organizations labeling Hazbin Hotel as being woke for its LGBTQ and feminist content because get woke, go become a very successful Amazon Prime show, one with millions of supporters, unlike 1 million. And as being satanic for casting heaven and angels in a villainous light and making demons and even Lucifer sympathetic, as well as some groups even making claims along the lines of how this show can corrupt young children and lead our impressionable youth into lifestyles of sin. Because I wasn't f***ing kidding, somehow the satanic panic has returned. Yet all these arguments against Hazbin Hotel are silly, nonsensical, and wrong, especially when taking into account the show's aforementioned thematic point, that we shouldn't judge people who have sinned, that we should love people despite their faults, that we should want them to improve morally. And for that, the show uses its colorful characters to tell a very, let's be honest, Christian-style story about loving sinners and helping people become the best versions of themselves. Because truly, Charlie Morningstar may as well be demonic Jesus, and one with impressive song and dance numbers at that. And while sure, some Christians criticize the show by arguing that a person's soul can't be redeemed once it goes to hell, and thus Hazbin Hotel is promoting a lie, I do have to question, for those critiquing this show from that angle, their sense of compassion for the human condition and spirit. And I do so for two reasons. Firstly, this is fiction and uses a fantastical setting to tell a story, one that means things in the real world more so than any potential actual afterlife. And secondly, even if Christianity were to be the quote-unquote true religion, shouldn't we still love and respect others who have sinned? Shouldn't we believe that anyone, even the damned, could potentially change for the better, of potentially doing the right thing? Because honestly, I feel like that's a more Christian take than what these religious and conservative outlets and organizations are making. Because honestly, Hazbin Hotel and its lead character Charlie embody many of the tenets of basic Christian love thy neighbor values. Because even though the series is set in hell and the main character is Lucifer's daughter, I feel like the show has a good heart, one that, as I said before, respects those love thy neighbor values. And I feel like many religious and conservative folks judging this series are doing so with thy neighbor values. And admittedly, the moral outrage against Hazbin Hotel was at least a little predictable, especially considering that heaven and the angels within Hazbin Hotel are often portrayed in a villainous light. After all, the main conflict revolves around how, unlike rural America, hell is overpopulated, which results in heaven's army of angels led by the colossal douchebag Adam, yes, that Adam, invade hell once a year in order to kill as many sinners as they can over a short period of time, all before returning to heaven. In fact, the angels, no relation, engage in this act of mass slaughter with glee and malice, viewing the sinners they kill as being less than people, beings who have forfeited their right to live. And with that particular portrayal of heaven's forces being antagonistic, I guess it was predictable that some Christians would find a problem with this show, that they'd criticize it. But here's the thing, Hazbin Hotel's portrayal of heaven's angels is absolutely roasting the type of people who are criticizing the show as blasphemous. After all, religious conservatives in America are often very judgmental. Many of them view the act of being LGBTQ as a sin and thus going against God, that women who have an abortion are committing a moral wrong, and etc. As I said, judgy. And look, I know that there is a little bit of hypocrisy on my part here. I mean, come on, I'm technically judging many religious conservatives who are against Hazbin Hotel, like how those said religious conservatives judge everyone else they don't agree with. But then again, my judgment is in response to their judgment. To quote every petty 7-year-old who has ever lived, they f***ing started it, because they are the ones who are specializing in judging various people as sinners, despite how LGBTQ people don't choose their sexual or gender identities, despite how a woman having an abortion is none of their business. And for that, Christian conservatives can just be very judgmental over those they believe that have and are committing sins, even though their backwards beliefs are really damn wrong. Because by stating that LGBTQ people, women having autonomy over their own bodies, and in how others are committing egregious sins, they are essentially dehumanizing people by just labeling everyone they don't like as sinners, viewing the rest of us, because I do be LGBTQ, as being less than them. And Hazbin Hotel accurately portrays this dichotomy. It shows how those labeled as sinners are often persecuted by self-righteous religious zealots, and does so with surgical precision. After all, the people who the angels want to kill are often relatable beings who have fallen under hard times. Angel Dust is an abuse victim who uses drugs to cope. Serpentius is a socially awkward and adorable goober that is a constant failure of a living being, and Husk has a sordid history with gambling and in how his soul is owned by the radio demon, a creature that is pure asshole. In other words, these characters have understandable problems that many real-life people can relate to. Because, you know, many people unhealthily cope with trauma by doing drugs, some folks have experienced humiliating failure and lash out as a result, and there are many who feel like they can't escape from certain people, jobs, or situations, meaning that Hazbin Hotel's various sinful characters have certain parallels with real-life folks who are struggling. They are actual people that shouldn't be dehumanized by heaven's armada of angels, very much like how sympathetic people viewed as sinners shouldn't be condemned by the religious in real life. And this point really gets across considering Hazbin Hotel's LGBTQ characters and themes. I mean, consider this. Our lead character Charlie is in a relationship with another woman in Vaggie, yes, that is her name, meaning that if she is a tired Sagittarius, then she would be a saggy Vaggie. Angel Dust is a gay porn star, and then there are other characters who are queer as well, overall showing a version of hell that is, to quote edgelord teenagers from the mid-2000s, hella gay. And that's most likely by design, that these LGBTQ characters are loathed and judged by the holy angels as being depraved sinners. Sure, in the show, hell's residents are judged by other types of perceived sins, more so than their sexual orientation or gender identities, but considering hell's residents are very queer positive and are determined to be less than human by beings of divinity, the point still gets across. Because like the judgy angels in the show, real-life LGBTQ people are often viewed as deviants by religious zealots, as being sinners, meaning that Hazbin Hotel reflects reality in this regard. And this backlash against Hazbin Hotel honestly proves the show's point, that some holy folks wield the Bible like a cudgel and judge whomever they believe to be sinning, even though many of the people facing the brunt of their ire are just regular Joes and Janes trying to live their lives and working through their own shit even before the persecution they experience. It's just a truth in the show, and it's clearly a truth in real life. And honestly, the religious folks criticizing Hazbin Hotel should understand that it's not media, animated, live action, music, video game, or otherwise, that is causing a major fissure between the general public and religion, especially in regards to the young general public and Christianity. No, the real reason is because of a toxic brand of Christianity that harms vulnerable people and judges fundamental aspects of their identity or something that they cannot control as being something inherently sinful, something to be ashamed of, especially when it comes to LGBTQ identity. And I can speak from experience on that. As a transgender woman, I can personally attest that one of the reasons as to why I'm not religious anymore is because of the amount of judgment and hate that people like me receive from organized religion and many of its practitioners. Sure, there are other reasons as to why I experience a schism with the church. My history with trauma makes me question how a loving God can allow me to experience immense pain and distress, and then there's the fact that I have become an agnostic. Like, I believe that the secrets of the universe are just above my pay grade. But even with that being said, I do remain wary of ultra-religious folks, because due to bad experience, as someone who was once a closeted gay, I get nervous around some religious folks folks, for they may be a closeted shit kringle, a true Crabicus Maximus. And for that, if religious conservative folks really desire to understand why people are choosing Sundays for football instead of God, maybe they should look inward. Maybe they should insert the theological dildo deep inside themselves and ask, what is it about me that drives all the fun people away? Because maybe, just maybe, their temptation to judge those different from them as making a sinful lifestyle choice, bleh, is the actual fucking problem with the church and not gay people. Maybe these same people shouldn't be an arbiter of what is right and wrong. Because at the end of the day, if Christian religion is to be believed, it's not the people who decide who goes to heaven or who goes to hell. If anything, no one 100% knows what leads someone to salvation or damnation, because to be honest, the nature of sin is in and of itself up for debate. Sure, many religious folks will point at the various wording of the Holy Scripture to justify their wrong-headed beliefs, but considering how history is full of people, organizations, and even entire nations using interpretations of the Bible and other material to justify abhorrent beliefs and harmful practices, maybe radical Christian nationalists just aren't the best at deciding who goes to heaven or hell, especially considering that that's not their job. That judgment belongs to God, if he exists, to which the jury is out, in my honest opinion. And given that, there is much argument over certain things and actions, and whether or not those said actions constitute as a sin. Hell, many churches don't agree on whether or not being gay is a sin, meaning that there isn't a unified belief among Christians on whether or not being queer would damn us to a toasty torment where we are punished by reliving high school or being forced to play Anthem in perpetuity. I hate that game. They just don't know shit. And Hazbin Hotel really reflects that. After all, later on in the series, we learn that the judgy as hell angels actually don't know what causes someone to go to heaven or someone to go to hell. They aren't aware of how that is decided, meaning that, like with the real world, there is an argument as to what does and does not constitute a sin, what causes people to be saved or damned. And when it comes to those criticizing Hazbin Hotel on religious grounds, they further prove the show's point due to how they're acting like they know what does or doesn't qualify as a sin, when in reality, they are as clueless as everyone else. They are just in the same boat of cosmic ignorance, my favorite flavor of cosmic brownie. God, that takes me back. There's just a lot that is unknown about the mysteries of the universe and potential divine beings, which means that religious people shouldn't judge others because, like my agnosticism, what gets someone to heaven or hell is above their pay grade, because like a certain fantasy character that fails upward, they know nothing. On one final note, the criticisms against Hazbin Hotel and how it makes the devil and hell's denizens appear sympathetic, or that it's going to indoctrinate young children due to being an animated show, are beyond silly. After all, stories portraying Lucifer as sympathetic have been created ever since John Milton kicked that door down with Paradise Lost, no relation, all the way back in 1667. It's not a new take. And then when it comes to children being indoctrinated due to how Hazbin Hotel is an animated show, those arguments neglect the fact that some Western animation is being created with adults in mind. As stated in some of my past videos, animation isn't just a medium for kids. If anything, it's a storytelling outlet that can weave an adult narrative as well as live action can, and sometimes do so even better than live action. It's a valid form of artistry that adults can enjoy. And with that, Hazbin Hotel's religious critics are clearly in the wrong, because if anything, they took an adult story about loving others who are going through tough times and lambasting it as immoral. They interpreted a story about having compassion for those struggling as being sinful, a truly heartless criticism of a show with an abundance of heart, thus proving Hazbin Hotel's overall narrative and thematic point.